This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Delighted, as always, to be joined finally by Eddie Hearn. Eddie, how you doing?
Just like people missed that, your actual YouTube beef with another outlet who was taking the mick out of the fact that you've got a shit camera, and you went, well, check out my views later. Do you know what I mean? So I was I'd never seen that side to you, Rob. You okay, hun?
Not bad, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well, very well, very
I
well.
haven't seen you since the day after Joshua Ruiz 2 in Saudi.
Really?
Yeah. How you been keeping?
Wow, yeah, been keeping well. What's happened? Lost a load of weight, put it all back on again, and we're underway for the year.
You still vegan?
No, but I should be, because I felt great. Man, how are you? Good. It's good to see your face again. What happened was I went vegan and I felt amazing, and now I'm back on non-vegan and I don't feel great again. So I do have to go back to being vegan. That is the vegan element of this interview over.
Well, I'm actually vegetarian now as well, yes, but I'm still a disgrace, as you can see. Yeah, cheers, mate. So you've got yourself a new signing, well, an old signing who's re-signed. Josh Warrington shocked a lot of people. Talk to us a little bit about how this came to pass.
Timing is everything, completely random. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Manchester and I went up to Steve Wood and I said, when's Warrington out of contract? He said, funny you should say that, he's out of contract. I had an offer to him the next day, we've been talking through it. Obviously had a lot of other approaches from other people. We won. I had a little secret meeting with him last week. We agreed a deal a few days ago and up and running. Quite unusual, well, not unusual for a fighter to change promotional companies, quite unusual to change and then come back again. So it feels great because we built Josh Warrington and we missed out on a couple of defining nights that I sort of had to watch and think, fuck it. But now we get him back in his prime as really arguably, and in my opinion, number one in the division. And not just a ticket seller, but actually a world champion who wants to go and unify the division.
What was that like for you? Because, I mean, the saying goes, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. He went and he won world titles and in fights that a lot of people didn't really give him that much of a chance at. What was it like for you to have that kind of, that first meeting after him going over to Frank and getting those wins under his belt? What was that like for Josh?
It was a little bit icy, I have to say. You know, it was me, Josh, his dad, and Steve Wood. We've always had a good relationship. In fact, when we parted company, there was nothing, there was nothing nasty about it. You know, we built this together in Leeds. And by the way, Josh done it all. You know, what we did was gave him a platform. He went out and done the business. He done all the hard work. But we had a good relationship with everyone. You know, his dad, Manners there, and like it was kind of like Josh against the world when we started. And what he built in Leeds was sensational. Probably my stubbornness cost me the opportunity to be part of that world title run. But it's done. And, even when he beat Selby, when he beat Frampton, I messaged him. I said, listen, mate, congratulations. I'm genuinely pleased for you. Like, bastard. But I was, because a lot of people wrote him off as just a ticket seller, and a lot of people didn't think that he would go on and be a world champion. What he's done was, he's gone on to be a world champion, and like I said, arguably the best in the division. He's not a ticket seller. He's a pound-for-pound top British fighter and a pound-for-pound top star. Now the next stage is to be in those fights where you can actually say to the world, I am the best in the division. And I'm talking about Santa Cruz, Shakur, Stevenson, Gary Russell, Kanzu. They're the defining fights that he wants. And if we had an ideal plan, they would be next, and they'd be next here in Headingley.
Given the fact that you went over to Frank and he had these like big defining nights when we had the Kaiser Chiefs at Ellen Road, etc., how much pressure is on you now to deliver these big fights that, by all accounts, were the reason that he had to leave Frank in the first place? Just
no more pressure than it is for any other top stars. Why they put their trust in you to deliver. I've got a good track record of delivering big fights. The boxes to tick. I think the reason that Josh wanted to come back to us was, one, he wanted to try and deliver the unification fights, and two, he wants to box in America. Obviously with us now, we've got a ready-made platform over there and promotional company that we can give him that option straight away. He's got that. He's got the Kid Galahad mandatory as well. That's not an immediate focus for him, but he knows that he is now mandatory. So the unifications and the big nights in America are there. They are a priority, and that's what we'll be trying to achieve next.
You mentioned the Kid Galahad fight, obviously very close and in some instances controversial in some people's eyes. How did you see the fight going, Eddie?
I thought it was a draw. I think that if you're going to win a world title on a away man's patch, you've got to box, convincingly to do it. I thought it was a very close fight. For me, I said to Kid Galahad, he texted me yesterday, oh, don't forget who number one is in the camp. And I think Kid Galahad is a brilliant world-class fighter. I thought his performance at the weekend was great. And he's a problem for anybody in the division. You know, if I'm advising Josh Warrington, I'm probably saying, you know, if you can get a unification fight, that's the route to take. And that is what we're going to do. You know, Josh hasn't brought me in to fight Kid Galahad. He's brought me in to try and unify the division and take a big fight in America. Kid Galahad is mandatory. And at some point, that's going to rear its head and you've got to deal with that, or you've got to move up to super feather, or whatever he's got to do. He'll make the decisions along with his team. I'll just present them to him. But, you know, we're all under one roof now. We'll work that out. But the absolute priority is to try and unify. And I think I'm excited to see him do it. And someone said to me earlier, a reporter, don't you think he should try and unify in the States? Why? Like, you've built this home advantage here. He might be unbeatable in this city. You know, the performance against Selby and the performance against Frampton, I know it was in Manchester, but the support that he has, and I just think he's getting better and better. And I just think he's in the absolute prime of his career. And I believe he can beat Shakur Stevenson. I believe he can beat Kanzu. I believe he can beat Gary Russell. And I believe he can beat Leo Santa Cruz. But I really believe he can do it here, out there, with 25,000 people supporting him and pushing him over the line.
Obviously, had Leo Santa Cruz and Cole Frampton with their back and forth, and Cole wanted to bring him over to Belfast. For one reason or another, that didn't happen. Do you think that fight could be made in the UK?
No, I don't. I think that's a Vegas fight. Josh against Leo Santa Cruz in Vegas, he would fill the whole arena up on his own. It would be one of the most epic nights. You imagine the atmosphere. I mean, listen, 5 years ago, we went to Berlin. There was 800 people. He sold all the tickets he had. He boxed at 6 o'clock. They're still talking about that now. Callie Sowland was sitting there watching all these beers go in the air, thinking, what is going on here? Imagine 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 at the T-Mobile. The weekend, the weigh-in, the press conferences, you know, that's career-defining stuff. I don't think Santa Cruz will be the one that comes here. I believe Kanzu, I believe Gary Russell Jr., I believe Shakur Stevenson will be the ones that will come to Leeds. But even those guys in New York, Madison Square Garden, Las Vegas, fine. But I just feel like he's earned the right to stage these fights in the UK. Why is Shakur Stevenson ready to come to Leeds? He don't have a following. Great fighter, right? Andre Ward, Jay Prince, Bob Arum, one of the top young prospects in the world. No one has a following in America, really. Like Shakur Stevenson, he hasn't got a clue what it's going to be like here for him. It's going to be hostile, but he may rise to that. He's that kind of kid, you know. But it's a great fight. But I think when you've built that kind of support here, use it. Use it to your advantage and try and get that mega fight and defining fight here, and then go to America, fight Leo Santa Cruz, fight someone else. And that's my opinion.
Obviously, the last time we saw Josh in the ring was against interesting challenger in Sofiane Takouch. Has it got to be a big fight now? Is it got to be a unification next?
I think it's got to be a unification, or it's got to be a big fight in America next. You know, I think the unification, you get to a stage where, you know, he won a world title. The difference with Josh is he didn't win a world title and then have 3 soft defences. He won a world title and then fought Carl Frampton. Actually a fight that he was an underdog in, right? That was probably the toughest first. And I'll be honest with you, I thought that was a bad move at the time, because I thought, wow, like you've just won at Ellen Road. You deserve a little welcome home Leeds Arena. He went into the Frampton fight. He won that fight. Then he boxed Kid Galahad, one of the top featherweights in the world, who is a nightmare for anybody, right? Then he got the easy touch against Takouch. Fair enough, he deserved it. But now, he don't want an easy touch, really. He wants a fight in America, or he wants a unification. That's what he wants next. So, for me, I think anything less than one of those, you know, the pressure that we're under now is, oh, come on then, like, okay. So he'll come back to you, go on, let's see what you can do. So, obviously, he left because he couldn't get what he wanted. And now I've got to deliver him what he wants. So the pressure's on me to do that. And that's why, for me, just going out there now, walking around, you know, you start looking at this standing area at Headingley and, you know, the atmosphere. That's what I want. I want him to try and unify here. And I want him to come over and I want him to spank a yank in front of the Leeds fans.
You mentioned Kid Galahad. Obviously, we saw him in the ring. Really top quality performance against Claudio Marrero. Do you want to touch on a few comments you made afterwards in the post-fight press conference, levelled at Frank Warren, regarding the purses with Josh Warrington and Kid Galahad? Frank Warren has since yesterday come out and denied those comments. He said that you've lied about those. Just your comments on that.
No, look, they were comments, and you can take them how you want to take it. I'm not going to say too much more. There's a couple of things ongoing on that. The comments about Josh Warrington were when you talk about a purse bid, it's not unusual to have an agreement with a fighter to pay him less or to pay him more. And what I said was, I don't know if Josh Warrington received that purse, not as in got the money, as in that was his payment. You know, what I would have done in that instance is maybe said, well, we can win it in Leeds, but you might take less or more than the purse bid or whatever the deal is. So there's a few ongoing stuff. I don't think Frank was very happy with my comments, but there you go. Probably not happy about today either.
Yeah, probably not. Just final question. You mentioned about matching Galahad and Warrington together. Now they're both under the same stable. It's not always as easy as that. We've seen it with Amir Khan and Kell Brook. We saw comments recently on the Pug and Cop show or whatever it was doing about you matching fighters under the same banner. Just your thoughts on that, because it's something that has been levelled at you, a criticism of not matching particularly your middleweights together.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about me matching our fighters together, I mean, I don't really like doing it, to be honest with you, because I kind of love to be in the moment and supporting the guys, and it's very difficult when you're matching two guys together. You can't sort of jump up and down and get involved. If you talk about track record of matching our guys, where are we, last year, Danny Roman against TJ Dehenny.
And Akhmadaliev.
Just now, Danny Roman against Akhmadaliev. Michael Hunter against Povetkin. You know, two guys that I had under contract. A contract in place for Joseph Parker to fight Derek Chisora. A contract in place for Usyk to fight Chisora. You know, Joshua to fight Big Baby Miller, who was under contract to me at the time. So I've got a big track record of doing it. I just haven't done it with the middleweights, and particularly for Billy Joe Saunders and for Callum Smith, because I'm trying to get the Canelo fight for them, and if they can't do it, they've got to fight each other. So, yeah, I don't really know where you're going with that question, but...
Can you see why it would rub fans up the wrong way, you saying that you don't like to not have to cheer for two people in a fight? When you, I mean, particularly when today you've just said, you know, you've got Kid Galahad and Josh Warrington, now under the same banner we can make that fight easy, but then you said that you don't like to do that.
Yeah, I don't like to do it. I will do it because he's mandatory and there's nothing I can do about it. But I'm just telling you, I prefer to walk in with my guy and be pumped and have the whole place jumping. I want to jump up in the fights and scream and shout. I want to dive in the ring after. I want to be involved. I want to be a fan. And when I had Callum Smith v Rocky Fielding, even when I had Luke Campbell against Tommy Coyle, when I had Tommy Coyle against Masha Dodd, there was one recently as well, or Fitz against Fowler, Cheeseman against Fitzgerald. I mean, again, like how many more examples? But it's so awkward because you fall out with someone. Tommy Coyle said to me, oh, I saw when I knocked down Masha, you didn't even get up and celebrate. I said, well, how can I? Fitzgerald said to me, oh, you said that Cheeseman, that was a close fight. It's only because you're mates with Tony Sims. And Cheeseman said to me, oh, Fitzgerald won that fight because you just want Fitzgerald Fowler. It's like, fucking hell. So you can't win. That's why you put them in against each other and say good luck. I'd rather sit and watch it at home, honestly, if I've got two guys fighting each other, because I want to live it and breathe it, and I want to be, you know, pumped. And it's hard to get pumped when you've got two guys whose career you're in charge of looking after, and you're trying to guide them to greatness, and they've got to fight each other. Someone's got to lose, and I don't like to see our guys lose.
Just finally, because there's a room full of people waiting to get a word of you, one name, who is the front runner for Josh Warrington's next fight?
I'm just going to go through a few names, right? So the best fight is Kanzu, like as in just style-wise. It was an absolute thriller, that fight. For me, the biggest fight that can be made, and the one with the most spice, is Shakur Stevenson, because he's got a lot of trap. He's a very gifted fighter, big profile in America, Andre Ward, etc. But then again, like Leo Santa Cruz in Vegas is monstrous. Gary Russell, great fight, tough fight. So they're all of them. I would like to see Shakur Stevenson because I think it's going to be an interesting, spicy build-up.
And the front runner is?
I didn't want to speak to anyone till we announced it. So last night I spoke to Gary Russell, obviously top rank. Haven't spoke to Santa Cruz yet. Spoke to Golden Boy last night about Kanzu. Can't really tell you the front runner is. Any one of those will do.
Okay, Eddie Hearn, thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social.
Thank you.